Get this fool off the court. Draymond Green said that about Dennis Schroeder, and I'm saying this. Welcome to High and Low. Good day and good night. Welcome to another installment of the High and Low Basketball Show. This is episode number 100 and Schroeder, also known as episode number 171. Dennis Schroeder is known for a few things. He was a member of that anomalous 2014-2015 Atlanta Hawks team that inexplicably won 60 games and kind of stumbled through the postseason before catching a sweep at the hands of LeBron and his Cavaliers. Schroeder's also known for being a bit of a disturber on the court. That was on display during the FIBA qualifiers this summer, where he was messing around with our boy Dylan Brooks. He does that all the time, and I think he's most famously known for turning down a 4-year, $84 million contract extension from the Lakers, and that was offered to him during the season. And he was hoping he could have a strong playoff run and earn more on the open market. Postseason was a disaster. He had to take a taxpayer mid-level exception deal from the Celtics for $5.9 million instead.
What did you say?
And hey, that's where he would wear the number 71 and commiserate about his decisions all season long. And now he plays for the Raptors, where he's making just over $12 million a year. Not quite back to where he was. He could have been back then. But anyway, welcome to the High and Low NBA Show. My name is Ike Amaechi, and I'm here with Sir Mitch of House Orsatti, a.k.a. Mitch Orsatti, and Sean to the Break of Dawn Khan, or just Sean Khan, either way. Around here, we live by a principle governed by the high and low lives of the world, which means we talk about basketball, especially and specifically the NBA, and we talk about it at any time, anywhere, north, south, east, west, high, and low. This week on the show, we're getting into a bit of this and that. Choices, choices have to be made. Last week, everyone was up in arms about Steph Curry, in so many words, saying he was the greatest point guard of all time. Yeah, it's bold. Saying he's better than Magic. I don't know, man. MJ, Michael Jordan, had to throw in his $2 million and declare Magic Johnson as the greatest PG of all time. But I don't know, who would you pick if someone had a banana to your head? Actually, I would say the other thing, but my nephews listen to this show, so I'm not going to try to pull a John Moran and glorify violence, but, use your imagination. But the point is, decisions, we got to make decisions on this here episode. Decisions we would make if faced with a situation where you would have to pick between two NBA players. We also have a very interesting question from a listener, one that would have you feeling a bit introspective and philosophical, inspired by a conversation from a couple weeks ago. Sean, don't feel attacked. I think this is a great question. It's a great question. Anyway, stay tuned for all of that. You don't want to miss it. Hey, and shout out to listeners who reached out about the Kobe episode that we had last week. It's a fun one to record. Actually, I was surprised to hear from Bigums, who disagreed with some of the things I was saying about the Kobe brand maybe becoming the successor to the Jordan brand. He's a Kobe fan, but he was like, nah, no one will ever surpass Jordan brand. It's too far ahead. No successors ever. That's exactly what he said to me, or that's a text. But I heard from guys like Shango and Manish, who are regular question askers on this show, and both agreed that Kobe's shoes were the closest to being a successor. So great food for thought. Glad some people took it in. Appreciate it. Anyway, before we lock in, let me check in.
Oh, hi. Thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Gentlemen, we are at the end of the summer, which means back to school shopping for the kids. Speaking of shoes, any Jordans in the shopping cart for these kids?
My child wears burlap sacks and cardboard boxes till he's done growing.
I can agree with that. What's the name of that Robert Munch story? The Paper Bag Princess.
Princess, yeah.
That's right. Send our kids to school wearing paper bags and burlap sacks on their feet. Sean, what about you? Actually, your kid's not quite old enough.
She's 3. I'm definitely not buying her Jordans. But she also she's really small, so she's been wearing the same shoes for like a year, or maybe even over a year, the same size shoes. So we would have got our money's worth if we did. She did have a couple pairs of Jordans when she was really young, but don't really see a need to right now.
Well, I'm just going to pass you some advice, some sage advice, some wisdom learned from my mistakes. So this time around, I went shoe shopping for the boy. Got some Jordan 1s, the Cherrywood mids, so beautiful. I wish I had them myself. I was like, anyway, got some other Jordans for my daughter. No Kobe's though. Man, Kobe doesn't come in kid sizes. But I don't know if you guys saw in the chat earlier, Hugo and I were talking about shoes and what we went through as kids. Because my parents never understood the fascination with shoes. They didn't care. In fact, they would just take my sister and I to some bargain basement shop, point me in the direction of some huge bin of sneakers that they looked familiar, but not quite right. It's almost like the Mandela effect, like a Nike with a backwards K and an upside down swoosh. You're like, is this? I don't know if this is right. Am I dyslexic, or is this the real thing? Anyway, I'm not sure. And they had like shoes that looked like Converse high tops, but they said Ruse on the side with a zipper. Always confused.
I used to have to wear Brooks and Voigt.
Oh,
There was I remember one pair was like red and black. It looked like a sick basketball shoe for a second.
Yeah.
And it said Voigt on it.
I mean, hey, some kids are very lucky. Sounds like you were. That whole, the whole thing where someone points to your shoes from a couple years ago and they go, "What are those?" Right?
Yes.
Because if you look closely, you could tell, okay, these are not the real deal. But if you just, if you squint, it's fine. It looks fine.
I think like grade 7 or 8 is when I started to wear like proper basketball shoes.
Yeah.
I think like grade 8 I had Converse Reacts. Maybe the Kevin Johnson ones.
Love those. The LJs, yeah.
LJ had
the Kevin Johnsons?
I had the Kevin Johnsons, I think, in grade 8. Yeah.
I refused. I was telling Hugo earlier today that I just went with the Stan Smiths, just a very basic Adidas shoe. And I just held out. I had one young uncle who understood shoes, and he would give me like Nike trainers, Reebok pumps, Patrick Ewings for like Christmas or my birthday. And I just waited out till I got one of those.
Oh, that's really smart. I'm glad to know you're using your brain.
Did everything I could to avoid that. Because I saw the kids that wore them. And in my neighborhood, people were not kind to us children. Anyway, our kids will never know the struggle. Anyway,
it was a very
the
polite
advice,
way for you to put that.
Bullying, yeah. Actually, the advice I wanted to give is just like, hey, spend the money on the shoes. The clothes, these kids go through the clothes like it's nothing. The shoes, they will never lose the shoes.
The shoes will last. Yeah, they won't.
Shoes will last.
Yeah.
You can get them whatever. They can wear the burlap sacks or the paper bags on up top. Anyway, Sean, Mitch, I appreciate your time this week. Thank you for joining me. Listeners, thank you for joining us for another installment of the High and Low NBA show. Another week, another episode, more NBA. So, of course, more high and low. This week in NBA history, 2 ships passed in the night. On August 30th, 2017, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics finalized a deal that sent the Cavs star guard, Kyrie Irving, to the Boston Celtics for Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, and Zizic. And then they also got 2 future picks. There were a couple of significant points to highlight here. The Cavs were fresh off an appearance in the NBA Finals where they fell to the hands of a gentleman's sweep by the Golden State Warriors. Rumors had been swirling about Kyrie's dissatisfaction with life in LeBron's shadow. The smoke quickly turned into a 5-alarm fire when Kyrie would request a trade and dash LeBron's hopes of returning to the finals away. The Cavs hoped they could land some players that would keep them on course, and some people thought this would be the case when the deal with Boston came about for Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, and future picks and Zizic. when that came to light. Now, that's the other part of this situation I want to highlight. Isaiah Thomas was the other key piece of this deal. Now, he was coming off the best season of his career, leading the Boston Celtics in scoring and being absolutely clutch throughout the regular season. In playoffs, he brought Boston back to life, basically, after a few subpar to average seasons. He was the leader, the engine of that team. He was a centerpiece of this rising power in the East, and he knew it. Isaiah Thomas knew how much he meant to his teammates, how much he meant to his organization, the city. He knew how much they needed him going into the postseason. Despite being hampered by a right hip injury, he played through it. Like he powered through it. He played through all the pain and still put up incredible numbers for Boston and led them to the Eastern Conference Finals. They would, of course, lose to Cleveland in 5, but Isaiah Thomas won the hearts of many NBA fans with his never say die approach, his willingness to put everything on the line. And after doing all of this for Boston, after doing all of this for the fans, for Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens, they repaid him by trading him to Cleveland. Now, the move was panned by many, including myself, but he was never the same after that season. The hip continued to bother him and depreciated his game significantly. And perhaps Ainge and Stevens asked Thomas to do too much during that postseason, saw the consequences of that labor, and cut their losses for an opportunity to start anew with a bigger star. There's no positive spin with this. Shady is shady.
It was gross. Yeah.
It was absolutely disgusting. The trade became one of those moves that didn't really work for either team. Now, Kyrie, he played out his contract with Boston and then left for Brooklyn. Isaiah never got back to where he was. The Cavs dealt him to the Lakers for Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance Jr. Actually, Larry Nance Jr. was all right, but not on par with. I mean, he wasn't a star, essentially, is what Cleveland was expecting. Jay Crowder didn't stay in Cleveland for too long. He played, 50 some odd games. He was traded for George Hill and Rodney Hood. And the 2 picks from Boston turned into Colin Sexton and Skylar Mays. Again, nothing significant came back to either team that would replace the 2017 versions of Kyrie and Isaiah. However, both teams have done just fine despite this moment in their histories. I mean, Boston's a contender, and Cleveland, they've managed to rebuild a team that looks to make that leap to contender status, led by, of course, Donovan Mitchell. But yeah, Isaiah Thomas, Kyrie Irving, 2 ships passing in the night. Anyway, that's a little something for the NBA history nerds. Things are certainly happening in the NBA today, so let's talk about it.
Let's talk about something important.
Got a question here from Loris in Bridgetown, Barbados. Woo! Shout out to Bridgetown, Barbados, man. Anyway, back to Laura's question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember hearing someone on the podcast say they didn't really watch the NBA anymore because the game isn't as interesting to watch as other sports. I don't watch as much as I used to for the same reasons, but I still like to stay connected through podcasts like yours. Why do you watch NBA games? This is Laura's question.
Sean, why do you watch NBA games?
I don't feel attacked. I initially did when I started to read the question, but then he actually agreed with me. So it's nice to see that some of our listeners feel somewhat the same way. When I make those comments, I always fear that I'll get accused for not liking the NBA for political reasons, which is most certainly not the case. And I guess the same can be said about Loris as well. The product on the court is not nearly as entertaining as it used to be, in my opinion. So, I mean, to answer the question, why do I watch the NBA? I mean, sometimes there's a delay when the networks change from Golf Channel to NBC, so there's some time to go.
Wow.
But no, you know what? You don't have to watch the NBA to watch basketball. And this isn't an NBA-specific podcast. So, I mean, like the NBA is the center of the basketball world, so we're obviously going to discuss it the majority of the time. But I can be a basketball fan and not necessarily a big NBA fan. And like I said, this is not officially an NBA podcast. It's a basketball podcast. So I mean, I feel like I've watched enough basketball and I've watched enough highlights that I can keep up. And which I was talking about this off air. The FIBA World Championships start tomorrow, and Canada plays France at 9:30 in the morning here in Canada. So I'll definitely be tuning into that, and I'll be watching as much of the tournament as I can. I'm liking the fact that there's no NBA refs, no prima donnas crying about contracts, no players acting weird on social media, no one worrying about fashion, no guns in strip clubs, no porn stars. Actually, it doesn't sound so bad now, but yeah, anyway. These are the best basketball nations in the world. Sorry, the best players from the best basketball nations in the world. Except for the U.S., you could say they still have a very strong team, but it's not going to be a USA walkover. It always has the potential to be that, but we've seen a huge shift in the depth of competition in the international game over the last 20, 30 years. The U.S. has an extremely talented team, but most of the superstar vets opted out. So it's a lot younger of a team and guys that aren't necessarily stars, like an Austin Reeves, for example.
Oh my gosh.
They should still be the gold medal favorite, but I mean, I guess I still didn't really answer the question, but honestly, I don't watch NBA games outside of playoffs, and I barely watched the playoffs this year. But if I had to watch, and Mitch is going to like this, seeing a team like Denver last year who were executing like perfectly down the stretch and playing like such a well-oiled machine, like that was entertaining as hell to watch last year, just watching them execute. 2019 Raptors, I can say the same thing. The Warriors, when they're in their high time, were really fun to watch. That Mavericks team that won the title was playing like that down the stretch as well. So, I mean, I would watch more basketball if the Raptors got their stuff together as well. But that seems like far away from where they are right now. So, I mean, don't hate me because I don't watch the NBA. It's not like I don't want to. It's just that there's so much other content out there, and there's only so many hours in the day that I'm actually able to watch something. NBA basketball has just slid further down my priority list.
I'm glad you eventually answered it, because I was about to rip into you if you didn't. This is such a great question from like a fundamental root identifier perspective. Solid question, Loris. Essentially, it's why do I do this thing? And to be honest, there's a ton of strikes against watching NBA games. Sean has listed many of them. I'll list a couple more. They're long. It's like 2.5 to 3 hours. And sometimes that stretches into like the wee hours of the morning if you're watching West Coast basketball, which I love to do. Number two, there are countless bundles of information fed to me that I don't care at all about. But the moments have been manufactured to put fans into a place that they feel like they should care, which is manipulative and gross, and I hate it. So strike two. It's extremely expensive if you want to go to a game in almost every way. Tickets, food, merch, booze, whatever. 3 strikes. And the one that Sean mentioned, the product is not the product that I fell in love with. I'm not going to call it better or worse. It's just not what it used to be for me. So that's a lot of strikes.
You struck out.
It seems like I struck out and then some. It seems like I should not be watching NBA basketball, right? and yet I watch it because it's sport, right? Like it's the sport that I first connected to and fell in love with. And I think because of that, it's always going to hold like an extremely soft spot in my heart, regardless of the noise and the cost and the length of time that it takes up in my life. As long as I can continue to like find ways to put up boundaries around the stuff that I don't care about. Like this year, I was like, okay, off-season stuff, I'm just not going to pay it any mind. I'm going to see it, but I'm not going to give it any thought, which I've failed at in some regards, but I feel like I've done an okay job. Then I think like as long as I can do that, I think I'll continue to love the game and it'll continue to have a place in my heart. I hope. So that's why I watch it, because it's like ingrained in my heart. Can't remove it like a parasite.
I was going to say it's in your blood, but parasite. Hey, sure. Let's go with that one.
Yeah, they live in the blood.
That's true. Yo, you guys inspired me, man. Because honestly, I was going to let you guys cook with this question because it's a great question, man. Loris, you dropped a great question.
Super great question. Yeah.
Love it. If you don't mind, let me just drop my 2 cents here. At first, I struggled with this question when I looked at it. I don't know. There've been times where I've taken I've taken a step back and wondered why I watch NBA games, the NBA product, what I get out of the experience. Like, what is it? And I've always been able to enjoy the balance of watching the game and then playing the game. And it's been like that my entire life, playing competitively or later on playing recreationally. And even when I play recreationally, it's like 2 to 3 times a week. To me, the NBA always sort of functioned as a nice complement to that part of my life. And I haven't really played recreationally on a consistent basis since everything shut down in like 2020. So, I've hooped here and there, but there's no routine. Anyway, the equilibrium is all off. And I've never been one to purely spectate. And that's what I've been doing for the last few years. And to be honest with you, it's been a struggle. Not going to lie. The NBA product hasn't been strong enough to really pull me in every single night. Plus, the NBA's programming is disgusting. Gross. Yep. Half the time, can't find a game you want to watch. If you happen to get League Pass, way too many blackouts, way too many restrictions. It's very frustrating. I found myself falling into highlights cycles, where you're just watching highlights on YouTube. Before I just made a concerted effort to actually climb out of that and just actually watch games. But thank goodness for in-person games. But to your point, Mitch, they can be really expensive. So you can't do that all the time. But anyway, I guess to answer Loris's great question, I still watch because of the community. These are great conversations that we have here, not only on a weekly basis, but on a regular basis, on a daily basis, even in our chat. And I realize I don't have to watch every single game to have these conversations or to have offshoots of these conversations, variations of basketball conversations, or even just to have basketball as the roots or the foundation of these relationships. But I think it's rooted in just the community, and just to have that, just to be able to continue loving the game, but also being able to enjoy the community that loves the game as much as I do, maybe even less than I do, maybe even more than I do, but there is a commonality there that I can actually appreciate. I think that's what keeps me coming back or keeps me watching the game, even if it's just on the periphery, but yeah, I need to get back into the routine though. I miss snatching souls.
I got a spot for you. Rec League every Monday. Come on out, man.
Yeah. That's a good point though, because I feel like my NBA fandom started to dwindle as I stopped playing as well. So it's a good point. And like I do watch a lot of golf and I play a lot of golf. So for me, it's almost like I'm in that sort of mindset, and that's why I'm not watching basketball. Similar with baseball and football. I played baseball and football for a long time as well, like recently, and it's just those are the only sports I really put time into these days.
Anyway, Loris, man, goodness gracious, man. Solid question.
Write more questions, Loris.
Exactly. Hey, thank you very much for the question, Loris. Appreciate it. Quick reminder to High and Low Lives, if you want to find us on the socials so you can leave a question for us to answer on these episodes, you can send us a DM on TikTok at More High and Low. You can also send a DM to us on Instagram at Get High and Low. I'll leave the links to those things in the show notes. So let's take a quick break because we've been talking a lot. But when we come back, we're going to make some choices. You guys ready to make some choices?
Ready.
Yeah. Locked and loaded. We'll be right back with more High and Low.
This moment is brought to you by High and Low listeners. This week on the High and Low NBA show, listeners were asked to share their list of top 5 NBA players to watch for the wrong reasons at the start of the new season. We heard from Bigums in Thousand Oaks, California. Bigums shared his list starting with number 5, Bradley Beal. His life as the distant third wheel in Phoenix might catch Bradley Beal off guard, and I want to be there when it happens.
You and me both, sister.
Number 4 on Bigums' list is Anthony Edwards. If Anthony Edwards can be Team USA's number 1 option, he can definitely take the wheel away from Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota.
You heard me?
Number 3 is Zion Williamson. Zion's been shooting less shots on the court and more shots with random thoughts.
There it is again. Where is that thumping coming from?
Let's see what version of Zion we get after all the drama. Number 2 is Damian Lillard. Dame asked to be traded, and Portland asked Dame to kindly shut the f up.
Wow.
Even to a guy like me, that's cold.
Dame will either boycott the Blazers or be a disruptive force on the court. Either way, we should all watch with popcorn. Number 1 on Bigham's list is James Harden. Morey doesn't want to pay him what he thinks he's worth, and Harden doesn't want to play for a liar. The Sixers are a mess that you can't look away from. Thank you for sharing your list with us, Bighams. Let's get back to the program.
And we are back. I'm Ike Amaechi. That's Mitch Orsatti, Sean Kahn, and this is the High and Low NBA show. I tease this moment at the top of the show, faced with the choice of 2 players. Who would you pick? Banana to your head. Maybe I'll use another thing. I don't know. Banana to your head. I don't really like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Won't bust a grape in a fruit fight.
Something like that. I'll shout out some names. You make your pick. Feel free to give a reason why. I'm sure there will be reasons why. Let's start with the first one. Water gun emoji to your head. 2007-2008 MVP Kobe Bryant or 2007-2018 MVP James Harden. Who would you take?
It's Kobe for me. I mean, there's probably only 12 players that I'd pick over Kobe. And James Harden at any point in his career is not one of them. See what I did there? I'm assuming this is a meaningful game, so I can't have Harden going like 3 to 14 and losing. So I'll take Kobe's 9 of 24, but winning.
8 of 24 is
8 of 24. Yeah, please. It was right there. It was right there, Sean.
I dropped the ball.
Good.
I mean, yeah, we got 2 heliocentric entities here. Neither of these guys won anything in these respective years. They both won MVPs, but they both flamed out in the playoffs. One of them did a lot more offensively, Harden. The other did a bunch more defensively, Kobe, but neither did enough to separate. So I think I'm with Sean here. I got to go back to the historical, obviously it's going to be Kobe here for me as well.
Kobe wins.
All right, you guys, what's next?
All right, next one. Eggplant emoji to your head.
Come on.
Literally.
Steph Curry, 2015-2016 MVP version Steph Curry, or MVP Magic Johnson, 1988-89 MVP Magic Johnson. Who would you take? Who you putting on the court? Who you putting on your roster?
This one is really tough because you mentioned it earlier, the Steph Magic best point guard of all time. For sure it's Magic. Steph's not there yet. He can make it, but he's not there yet. However, this year of Steph is the year that Steph became Steph. Mm-hmm. And he broke all concept of what a high volume 3-point shooter looked like. Yeah. More than half of his shots per game this year were from 3, which is insane. More insane is he shot 45% on 11.2 threes per game. That is insane. Incredible. Give me this Steph over that Magic.
Yeah, just like knowing what a crazy weapon Steph is, it's so hard to not pick him. It's crazy. And obviously this is a great question coming off the Steph comments calling himself the best ever. Both these guys during those years were like the greatest show on earth. Like they're both huge pop culture figures, both transcending into other sports and cultures, and both really bigger than basketball. And Steph's probably not wrong calling himself the best ever, but he did say that it was either him or Magic, and he's exactly correct. And that's what this makes it so much harder than the Kobe Harden debate, in my opinion. But staying consistent with my all-time rankings, I'm going to go with Magic. I have him at 4 overall. I have Steph at 8 currently. But I do think it depends on the roster. I think, if there, just to really make a really simple example, if there are other shooters out there for Magic to distribute to, If there's not, I might be more inclined to go with Steph. But all things being equal, I'll stick with Magic for now.
But are you saying that MVP Magic is equal to this MVP Steph? Because I don't think it is. And if we're taking that player from that year,
yeah, I mean,
man.
But it was the MVP Magic. He won the title. Like he was right there.
Steph won the title too.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Should have won Finals MVP too.
You can't go wrong with
certainly not.
But I think like to deny a crazy weapon like Steph and that 3-point shot and the handles, and it's hard for me to pick against him. But I don't know. It's still Magic.
But you're doing it. I probably take Magic in any other year, but not this Steph, not that year.
Lock it in.
All right, you guys, what's next?
Next one. And I know the eggplant is a little too much.
Choose something else this time. honey bowl to your head.
Honey bowl. Can that be misconstrued?
Sure it can.
It's a little sticky.
Okay. Oof. Okay. Well, in that case, let's move on. Superman with his heat vision to your head.
Wow.
That's rough. Actually, that's just as violent. What am I doing? Anyway, 1999 to 2000, Shaquille O'Neal, or 2022, 2023, Nikola Jokic. Who you picking?
Okay, let me go first because I know Mitch is
you don't know me.
You have a lot to say. I'm going Shaq here. Like, obviously, Jokic is an excellent all-around player, and some version of Jokic might win this debate someday. But that year in Shaq, he was at the peak of his dominance. He won the MVP. He led the league in scoring. He was all defense second team. He was second in the league in rebounds, and they won the title. So, obviously, I do have Shaq around 10th of all time. Jokic, I don't know where he is. I haven't really thought about basketball enough to really know where I put Jokic, but I know he's not top 10 yet. Give me 2 or 3 more seasons at this level, and then maybe we can talk about that. But this year of Shaq at his most dominant, I'm not gonna not pick that.
Firstly, why are you doing this to me? Secondly, everyone knows Jokic is absolutely my guy. He won the chip in this season, and a Finals MVP. Not the MVP, even though he deserved it. Sean is absolutely right. This is the most dominant version of Shaq that there was. And if you said 2021, 2022 Jokic, this is easily, I'm taking that version of Jokic because it's maybe like the best version of a basketball player I've ever seen. But, man, so I dug into the advanced numbers. It's still like Jokic has the advantage on the advanced numbers, but I think you have to bump Shaq up a little bit for like era adjustment because probably he would be better playing in today's league.
Yeah.
Because this is so razor thin, I'm defaulting to what person, like Superman vision, is that what you said? Superman vision in my head. I have to pick a guy who I want on my team. And if I am picking for my team, the player I want is Jokic. Because I just like the way he plays better than Shaq. I think it's more conducive team basketball. I want to watch that. I want to play with that.
Okay.
But Shaq, I think, is the right answer here. I'm just not going to choose it. Can't make it.
It's like, I'm going to be wrong. You don't know me.
Yeah,
all right.
You know me. Although you know me perfectly well. You knew exactly what was coming.
Oh, I thought I'd be able to get you with the subliminal Superman reference with heat vision. I was thinking,
yeah, well, that's why I said honeypot. You should have seen that come. It's my guy Yoke.
Nice. Milk bags.
Milk bag to your head.
Milk bag to your head.
Okay, next, what's his name with his back to
in
me?
honor of Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales with his electric shockwave hand to your head. I don't know what to call it. So electric shockwave hand to your head. Mm-hmm. Alex Caruso or Austin Reeves.
So stupid, so dumb. This will be short. We haven't seen enough of Reeves to pick him over a guy who just won all defensive first team. Caruso easily.
There you go. Nice.
Can I
That's
just say no? No.
Yeah, you can for sure.
You can say no.
I'm just gonna. No? I mean, I didn't know Caruso. I forgot that he won all defense first team. So, but if I had known that, I may have leaned more towards Caruso. But I'm just gonna go with Reeves just because he can create his own shot, and that's really the only reason. But and he's playing for Team USA right now.
First team all defense, man.
That's
I know.
a big accomplishment.
That's
man.
huge.
It is. No, you're right. And if I had known that, I would have had a different answer probably. But
I mean, I told you, and then you said your answer.
I know. Yeah, your first answer was no.
Okay, but he also made Team USA. Making Team USA is a huge accomplishment as well.
Not
almost as big as making an all defense
All-star.
team.
I would say all-star.
Definitely not on par with making all defense.
Okay, well,
No
all-star. So anyway, we'll call it be on par with making an all-star team, but even not because it's like clear. It's like USA is like maybe B team, or probably closer to C. But like, if Reeves didn't play for the Lakers, would he be getting his shot on Team USA?
Nope.
1,000,000% no.
Exactly.
Nope.
So
that's why I'm saying, like, I don't know if we want to use this selection as the barometer, because I think it
choose the real.
It's a
choose
status.
the real barometer.
Create his own shot. That was my actual barometer. So that's it. I'll stick with that. He can create his own shot. Caruso can't.
Oh, sorry, my fault. We've been calling him Austin Reeves. Correction, Austin Butler. My bad.
There you go.
Okay, double-edged lightsaber to your head.
Ooh, double-edged.
2010, 2011 MVP Derrick Rose, or 2000, 2001 Allen Iverson, and he won the MVP in that particular year as well.
Sean?
I don't want to talk. My baby's crying.
Okay, I'll go. You can mute, and I'm on record on this podcast that I am not a fan of Allen Iverson's game. His game meant a lot to a lot of people, and I think he's a cultural gem and a touchstone for the game of basketball, but that MVP year is the worst field goal percentage of any MVP ever. And I don't like chucking. That's not my style of play. And so I am definitely not taking Allen Iverson there. I'm taking Rose and his explosiveness, but I'm also on record saying I don't like Derrick Rose. I think he's kind of nasty. So I don't want either of these guys on my team, to be honest. But if I had to take one, it's Rose.
Oh, the description for Derrick Rose is that he's kind of nasty.
It's kind of nasty.
It's hilarious. Love the video of Derrick Rose on his phone on just the street randomly, just talking.
So
on his phone.
odd.
Yeah.
What an odd thing.
No AirPods, just the old school earbuds with the rope and just talking. I was like, this guy is a multimillionaire, and he's standing there seemingly talking to himself. I don't know. Could have been a fake conversation.
I gotta watch this.
You're in for not a lot.
I'm gonna go with Iverson. I mean, just because, yes, like he was. I guess you can call him a chucker, but he still
not. I guess. Come on.
He still proved that he could consistently put a team on his back and make them maybe not contenders, but like competitive and getting to a second round of a playoff, or he did go to the finals that year. So as good as Rose was, I feel like Iverson always demanded a bit more attention from opposing defenders. He seemed to want the ball like more down the stretch and was pretty reliable in clutch situations. I'm not saying that Rose wasn't. I just remember AI being more that guy than Rose was at each other peaks. So I'm leaning towards Iverson on this one.
For sure. I mean, but like, I don't know how fair that comparison is, really. Derrick Rose's personality was nowhere close to the level of Allen Iverson's, right? Like, exactly. Allen Iverson was that guy because he was like, I'm going to be that guy. Derrick Rose became that guy because his game spoke for it, right?
But I think that's
not that Allen Iverson had no game.
I think that's worth something. I think having that mentality does drive you, and it does make you want to rise above, in clutch situations. So there's value to that.
Gross.
Last one. Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, ready to snap his finger to your head.
That's the best one yet.
2019, 2020, Giannis Antetokounmpo, or 2006, 2007, Dirk Nowitzki, both won MVP. Who'd you pick? Who's your guy?
Yeah, and actually, interestingly enough, both lost in the first round, as far as I know. So, super interesting question. I love Dirk, and I love watching him play. That fadeaway was something to behold. But how could you not take Giannis here? Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but did he win MVP and Defensive Player of the Year that year? I think he might have.
So.
So has that ever been done before? Like, did maybe Jordan do that? Maybe one of those crazy centers from the 60s or 70s may have done that. So yeah, they both lost in the first round. Super interesting debate, but I think Giannis was just, those 3 years of Giannis was some of the most dominant basketball we've ever seen, especially when they won the title. It was a crime that they lost in the first round, but that was kind of predictable if you were me, and I predicted it. But yeah, I'm taking Giannis here.
Okay. I don't think Giannis won MVP this year. He won Defensive Player of the Year, but he won MVP in 2020, 2021, and 2021, 2022. Did he not? Or did Jokic win 2021?
Who won the bubble MVP? Because this was the bubble year, right? If I'm not mistaken, to 1920, it was the year after the Raptors won the title. It was the bubble season. Who won the MVP?
Yeah, that was Giannis. Yeah, you're right.
So did he also win Defensive Player of the Year?
He did. He won that year Defensive Player of the Year.
So like, how can you not take that? It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm, regardless of accolades here, I think, as much as I loved Dirk's offensive genius, Giannis is enough of an offensive genius to edge well past Dirk because of his defensive prowess. Like, come on. It's easily Giannis here for me.
There it is. You've made your choices, and now you have to live with them. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Why the fuck I can't shoot 3-point shots?
That brings us to the end of this episode of High and Low. Hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you enjoyed the choices and that philosophical conversation that we had at the top, man. Again, Loris, appreciate the question. Feel free to share your thoughts on these comments, on our takes. Subscribe to High and Low anywhere you find podcasts. Make us a part of your weekly routine. You know where to find us. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Threads. Links to those are all in the show notes. So where can listeners find you, Sean?
Yeah, I'm just going to be here living the dream. That's it.
Maybe someday we'll explain exactly what that means to the listeners. All right, living the dream. And Mitch, where can they find you?
I mean, I don't know how to follow that. I'm also out here living the dream. No, you can find me over at RaptorsHQ, ramping up for the season to come. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Hey, check it out, people. RaptorsHQ. You can read Mitch's amazing articles. Do you drop listicles?
No, I'm better than that.
Okay, good. I was just gonna say. Good. Great answer. I'm better than that. Respectfully. Once again, music is by Live with the Enjoy Music Group. You can find Live on Twitter and on Instagram at LYVE. Additional music is by Sonny Rockwell of The Goodness. Sound design is by Vonn+Abrahamm. Can't find that guy anywhere. Actually, you can. No, you can't actually, but you can find him editing this podcast on a weekly basis. Appreciate that. This is a Vonn+Abrahamm podcast, in case you didn't know. So on behalf of Sean, on behalf of Mitch, I'm Ike Amaechi. Thank you for listening to High and Low, and we'll talk to you next week.
One time for the 13th best player of all time, Kobe.